I think we're in bold, yeah, right? I don't think Paris plays soon over Xe sometimes. I mean, it's probably just compositional stuff. Xe might just not play Sombra and Tracer as well soon. That's basically it. Okay, anyway, let's really focus on this one because I think we can start here. How will the fall-off nerf to Widow affect the way she needs to be played? Do you think they will buff Widow against shields become relevant again? No, they won't buff Widow. What will the meta DPS for Al be with hits getting even usable? So unfortunately, I'm really late in this one. You guys kind of already seen what the meta DPS are. But I did predict it's Sombra Tracer, very popular heroes, very good heroes right now. Ashe still being good, Widow being good, those things are fine. There's no surprises there. I think what was a little bit of, not a surprise, but was like how much Reaper was being used, but it's because Reaper was just very strong, and like Reaper is always strong, and compositions where the support utility and spam utility is very low. So if you look at like Tracer, Sombra, Winston, Diva, Lucio, like all of those things have very low spam damage. So when you play something like Reaper, he's not really affected by not having any spam damage. He's just does a ton of brawl DPS, which is what that comp is good at, and he has a mobility cooldown. That's also very important. You're like, well, why, if you're playing brawl, why would you play Mei? Why wouldn't you play Kree? Well, Mei has a defensive cooldown like Reaper, but she lacks mobility, so she's not going to be able to keep up with Winston, Diva, Sombra, Tracer, Lucio. Then you look at somebody like a Kree. Well, obviously he has a little bit more range and things like that, but he also lacks mobility, and he's obviously very diveable too. So when you're playing Winston, Diva, Sombra, Tracer, Moira, Lucio, nothing on that composition is just straight up diveable. Eventually you can dive, but you have to force cooldowns, you have to get them low. Like everything on that composition has a defensive cooldown. So the meta DPS in terms of like Reaper is because there was a mobile brawly style hero that had a defensive cooldown, so Reaper was decent. Although I think Reaper will eventually phase out a little bit unless we go to a brawl style, which is very possible as well. Like chat, we're coming full circle again. Here's what's happening. It happened with goats where teams got really, really good at brawl. Like brawl, like it might not it might not work out this way. I hope it doesn't, but this is what I'm getting the gut feeling of. Like brawl is really strong. Like double sniper, right? So you'd play Ryan, Zarya, Diva, Moira, Lucio, Brick. That was the OG goats, right? But as brawl got stronger, teams got better at playing brawl into spam, and then eventually teams just gave up playing spam. Like you couldn't beat goats with spam, so teams just went goats, and then teams started to go spammier style of brawl. So in other words, they would play the Ana. Okay, so it's a little bit greedier than the Moira, but if you can land that nade, then you're in good territory. And then people would go, well, why would I need an Ana? Why not just take a Zen, right? And then I'd play Zen Lucio Brick, and then even more spam. And then teams got really good at playing slow into Moira goats with Zen goats, and Zen goats just pooped all over everything. And then teams started. And then goats heroes started getting nerfed, little bit by little bit, until you started to be able to play spam heroes into goats again, into brawl again. And so then you started having to play Moira all over again because you had to basically beat the spammier style comps. And then teams started picking up BAP goats, and there's a whole little circle. And so basically what happened is they buffed spam heroes until you could not play brawl comps anymore. You just had to play spam, like Ashe, the Ashe buff, Echo being introduced, Genji buff, Tracer buff, Orisa being strong, all those things basically pushed spam back into the meta. So you kind of come full circle. Like they nerf damage so that brawlier type metas become strong again, and then they buff damage to come up with it, and then the spammier stuff comes in again. So when you look at something like, okay, specifically the Widow question, I don't think the fall-off nerf affected Widow that much. I think it was a pretty much meaningless nerf. I like the fact that they changed her SMG to make her SMG more flexible, because I always thought her SMG was really weak. So that was good, giving her a couple more bullets. Do you think they'll buff Widow again? No. But it certainly doesn't change the way Widow needs to be played. I've always been of the opinion that one of the nerfs to Widow, the two nerfs to Widow that I'd consider would be, one, lowering her fire rate, or two, reducing her headshot damage. So one of the things about Widow is that if you headshot with Widow, it's 300 damage, because a fully charged headshot has a 2.5 multiplier as opposed to a 2 times multiplier. So reducing that to just a 2 times multiplier would not only reduce her tank damage, but it would also mean that it takes her longer to charge up a shot for a one-shot kill. In other words, let's say you have to only charge up a headshot 2/3 of the way to get a 200 damage shot. If you did a 2 times multiplier, you would need a 100% I'm mixing up my numbers, but you need, 3/3, right? You need a fully charged shot to get a 200 HP kill, if that makes sense. To make Widow have to fully charge a shot to be able to get a headshot kill. But I'm not sure. But I don't think they want to buff shields again. I think shields are in a good spot right now. I think it's forced a lot of tanks to be more proactive. Does this generally hold true? Amount of peel needed. How does a Winston ball comp work when Winston generally wants more peel? Amount of peel needed, Monkey, Ryan, Orisa, Ball. I mean, that's pretty close. I would say Ryan needs less peel than Orisa now. I think Orisa, with how her HP nerf, she needs a little bit more peel, but it's kind of close. How does a Winston ball comp work? Well, Winston ball comps work when you can flank with your Winston and he doesn't need any, like, Winston ball is just like an all-in super greedy dive, and then you just basically one-shot whatever you're diving, and if you don't one-shot whatever you're diving, you basically lose because you have no way to like peel or sustain. So monkey ball comps only work in like really fast dives, but there's a reason why you almost never see them, because they're very hard to execute and they're not particularly good. See you, Prime. You all right, man? A little sick? No, I'm just... Basically, I've had allergies all summer long, so it's been kind of obnoxious. So sometimes they sound stuffy. Amount of peel given? Yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah. And also, you have to understand that, like, you have to consider like what type of peel you need. Like, this is better spam peel. This is better CC peel or brawl peel. This is better. Hog even has better peel against like certain Pog against certain heroes. Like Hog versus Winston Ball would be better peel than Diva, because Hog could like butcher these two guys because there's no matrix and easy hooks and stuff like that. So Hog can peel. It's just like this is more general peel. This is more niche peel. This is again more general peel. Well, more niche peel as well. When you're playing against Hog and comp, doesn't really have shields to break. What is situations do with a flick or when not? I think you always want to be looking for angles as Hog, almost always. Even when there's no shields to break, you always want to be looking for angles. When I say angles, I don't mean like hard flanking, but like you're just taking a little spam here, look for a hook here. Like if you look at the vast majority of hooks that are landed at the pro level and GM level, they're not when teams are like trading at chokes. The vast majority of hooks are landed when Team X will move, this way or rotate this way. And then Team Y will or Team, let me get a different color here. Team Y will back off, right? But as they're backing off, their hog will kind of swing wide and look for a hook. So, or the hog will peek through this little corner here and look for a hook. So a lot of the hooks that you'll land are when you're not on main, when you're like angling or like looking behind a wall, or as they push, you're hiding in a room, that kind of thing. Hey boy. Why is it Echo in pro meta right now? So this is actually a really good question. Normally I'd think hit scan and farmers play light, in this case I guess there's more to it. So this is a really, really good question. The reason why Echo is not played in pro meta right now is indeed hit scan. However, it's not just hit scan. There's a couple of reasons why. So Echo in general is a hero that's on paper that's very strong, but she's really struggled with the heroes that are really strong right now. Buddy, thank you for the follow. First off, hit scan is definitely a good, not counter, but makes playing Echo more difficult. But the thing with Echo also as well is, number one, she doesn't have a very good ultimate. Her ultimate is kind of okay? It's hard to set up very clear plans with her ultimate. Number two is the hit scan like we talked about. And number three is, it's not just the hit scan, it's the flankers. The non-Genji flankers. It's the Sombra tracers that can either cack her and kill her, that can one-clip her and kill her, or you running compositions where you just go so fast that Echo doesn't get enough spam damage for it to work. So if you think about what Echo did against Dive previously, is Echo made Dive previously difficult because it was very hard for you to stage without Echo poking you out. The difference between now and then is now you have Sombra Tracer that, due to other meta shifts, have become strong again. So basically, Echo can't permanently just mark your monkey, because if she does that and gets that aggressive, she's going to get hacked and she's going to get killed. The difference between Pharah and Echo, and this is really important, is Pharah can consistently maintain height in the air, like not quite as consistently since the jet fuel changes, but can consistently maintain height, and Echo cannot. She's a lot closer or a lot slower, so it means that Pharah can play in a lot of spots that are easier for her to play around hit scan. It's easier for a Pharah to play around hit scan than it is for an Echo to play around hit scan. Love you. Be safe. At least, and they'll still get value. But then you're like, oh, can Echo just not spam shields? Can she just not play slow and just shoot shields? Yes, but we have to remember that a big chunk of Echo's viability comes from her beam. And to get value out of your beam, you have to be close to your target. If you're not close to your target, you're losing a huge chunk of your utility, which is bursting down targets, and just a huge chunk of your DPS. Yes, you can mouse one. Yes, you can occasionally land value out of your right clicks, but D.Va's going to eat your right clicks. Not okay, things please stop. Thank you for follow. D.Va's going to eat your right clicks in current dive meta. And you're not going to get close enough to beam anybody without getting hacked and killed. Whereas Pharmacy could just play a million miles away, spam, 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 or play directly over you because she can hover and spam, spam, spam. Pharah is not a particularly crazy strong hero right now, but she was played for a period of time relatively strongly because of the fact that she can actually maintain height. Is her oldest primal a bit better? Is it not? No, it is not. It is not. So here's the deal. Give me a second. I'm gonna plug up my computer. Oh, my back. Give me a second. Is boy still in chat? Boy, I did something to my back, dude. I don't know what happened. I like pulled a muscle or something. So the thing with Echo's ult is yes. This core doesn't work. No, please. Why doesn't this work? Give me a second, chat. At the wrong power cord. Really annoying. The thing with Echo's ultimate is yes, it is a second life. But unlike Primal, with Echo, you don't always get the guarantee of the 1000 HP. So let me put it this way. If I go deep in with Echo really quickly, yes, I get a second life. But does that second life have 1000 HP? The answer is no, usually not. And if you think about it this way, I go in deep with Echo, I select a hero, I give myself a second life. A lot of who I select depends on like their mobility, their HP, things like that, and that in and of itself is fine. But what if, think of it this way, what if the enemy team all turns on, focuses me down quickly? Then because you always are committed, like you don't really get to pick and choose your positioning with when you get to use your ultimate. There really isn't like, okay, I could use my ultimate and I can guarantee build another ultimate. It's just basically you go in deep, you press Q on the first person you see, you hope that you live long enough to get your ultimate, and if you don't, you're screwed. Like the thing with Primal is you're guaranteed to be able to go in and go in really aggressively because you're going to instantly jump to 1000 HP. But if you're Echo, you don't get that option. You might pick Ana. Like, what if you pick an Ana? What if you pick a D.Va? Like, even if you pick a D.Va, you're still going to get melted. I don't know what happened to my back. I just pulled a muscle. It wasn't even like a specific, like, oh, my back. It was just like, my back kind of bothers me. So on paper, Echo's ultimate is good, but in execution, it's not so good because it's really easy for you to be focused on. You don't always get to pick who you get to choose. And you don't always build up the ultimate in time for it to count. It's not a bad ultimate by far, but it is not a busted ultimate. It's not a good enough reason for it to be picked. And the reason why I listed ultimate as the reason why she's not chosen is because when you have to choose between a Sombra and an Echo, in terms of ultimate power, who are you going to choose? And in the current meta of Overwatch League right now, that's basically what your matchup is. If you're playing dive, you have to play Tracer. You miss out on way too much damage, or Reaper, because you miss out way too much damage. And then your second one is in terms of guaranteed kills, like Reaper and Tracer finish kills. Echo, lots of spam, doesn't really finish super kills. But if you're picking Sombra versus Echo, why would you ever pick Echo? What metas would Echo be good in? Echo metas. Echo is a much better spam hero than she is a dive hero, because as long as Sombra and Tracer exist, Echo is going to have a harder time. Echo, I think, is a decent dive hero, but I think maybe we see more Echo if Sombra gets nerfed. If Sombra or Tracer are nerfed, I think you would see more Echo. I think you would see more Echo, like nerfing Summer Tracer would be better for Echo than nerfing Hitscan. How do you give individualized feedback based on free cam VODs? As in like third person VODs? I mean, you just look at how they're, like, you could still, cooldown usage is a little tricky, but you can look at how they position and their communication and stuff. That's kind of not sure I fully understand that one. Okay, to build on that, how often do you do individual reviews on players? I won't go into the details of this, but more often than you'd think. Could I take a shot at reading the macro in the first team fight between Mayhem, Violent, and Dorado? Sure. I'll skip to this one in a second. How do you explain how to think about space with main tanks? When to push forward, when to back up as Monkey in the Brawly meta? I mean, you want to push up as take space as Monkey when your DPS and supports are ready to support you, and then you want to back off when you're low on HP, low on resources, and then your DPS and supports have backed off. So like you go in, you bubble, you spam, zap, 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 zap. I'm low in HP. My Reapers, and then you just back off again, and you rinse and repeat. And you rinse and repeat until something happens or somebody builds an ultimate. Like, that's a very, very, very basic way of looking at it. Okay. Confused by, honestly, by Mayhem's choices, especially with backing up instead of using Eels and high ground in the first section. Sure. Okay. So, they utilize here, so this is just basically a spam mirror. The only difference is one team is playing Hog Zarya, the other one is playing Monkey D.Va. My thoughts on this are as follows. Like, I think Monkey D.Va versus Hog Zarya in the spam mirror, so you notice that this is spam, right? This is not raw dive. I think Monkey D.Va can do okay, but you have to play it really well. And you have to play around high grounds really well. So like on this map, it's okay because Dorado is really good for dive tanks, but like Hog Zarya in spam mirror is pretty good. So you're confused at what Mayhem does though, so we will look at that. So I mean, the first thing I would say is that sometimes teams will take fights here if they see an opportunity, like maybe Gangnam Gym lands a big nade, BQB gets a kill, gets a shot or two off, and then they commit and they want to clean up the fight. But generally, you fight here if you're looking for, or here if you're looking for 2 fights, if you're looking for a clean recontest. So, or even 3 fights. So like what you would want to do here is, potentially Mayhem can, if they stop the cart here, because they're playing a more mobile composition with mobile tanks, they could play for 2 fights. They could play for a recontest. So the reason that they'd give up this here and play for this here is because they feel like they can get a second fight anyway, or they feel that this choke is just so strong that you're willing to give up space just to take a fight at this choke. I mean, this happens in ranked all the time. Very rarely in mid to high ranks do you fight here. You'll spam here, but you almost always play at this choke because this choke is just strong. Now, if you're playing Monkey D.Va into Hog Zarya, the reason why you might want to prioritize holding this choke is it forces the enemy tanks, the enemy team really, to walk out of a small choke with no main tank. And that's a problem because who is blocking damage? Who has a shield to block damage? Okay, who has the capability to dive deep and distract your backline so that your tanks can walk, or your tanks and DPS can walk out of the choke. Now, I don't just mean shields, but like what if you had a monkey? You could have a monkey dive in really deep here, and then your off tank and your DPS walk through the choke to get space, right? Or you have a ball that rolls through, and then he rolls through and slams your backline right here. And again, that gives your team space to walk through the choke. But if you're playing Hog Zarya, how do you break a choke like this? How do you walk it? Like, you immediately walk out and the damage boosted Ashe and the Ana and the Genji are literally spamming you for free, and all you have is a bubble and you're taking damage. You have no way of distracting them. You have no way of creating space. So you're really stuck at the choke until you make a play on their monkey, or maybe your Ashe wins a duel. But your Ashe is at the disadvantage in the duel because you guys have a defensive positioning. You guys have an easy res, which they have too, but you have an easy res, which you can guarantee without dive pressure. And your tanks have to walk into a choke. And these guys don't have to do a thing. Monkey D.Va can literally stand AFK until they walk through the choke. Is it determined by the spam comps? Is it determined they are spam comps mostly based on DPS? I mean, you look at the DPS and the supports. Like, this is spam, spam, spam. I mean, it's a hybrid, obviously. Like, hybrids are very popular right now. Like, you even look at the Sombra. Like, you're not playing raw spam. Sometimes the utility of running a dive hero with spam is just too strong. For example, a lot of teams are there. This is a this is like generally how you play Hog Zarya comp, because the weakness of the Hog Zarya comp is the ability to threaten squishies, right? So there's no dive threat whatsoever. You have a very, very passive comp, and you're very weak at creating space. So you can almost use the Sombra as like a miniature Hammond to like threaten off angles and to threaten backline. So that gives your DPS space. Also, it's better against dive because EMP. I mean, when you're playing, you need something that can basically peel a dive. Like, you can EMP a Nano Blade, you can EMP a Monkey, you can EMP a Diva, you can EMP a lot. Like, EMP is just really strong. So they rotate. They're going to have to split push this, the Gladiators are. It's the only way they're going to break a choke, is through spamming from different angles. I mean, this is it in a nutshell. So what they do is look at how they may handle this. They say, okay, they're split pushing. Let them take space. Let them walk through the choke. Then what do? We dive once they're through the choke. What does the Zarya have to do? She has to run away. What does the Hawk have to do? He has to run away. He's getting blown up. If the Ashe or Sombra don't find a pick or an opportunity in this mindset, you literally have to start all over again. Meanwhile, the Monkey Diva just back off, and look at this. What have the Gladiators gained here? Nothing. They've done nothing. They've accomplished nothing. Whoop. Wow. Okay, so they've accomplished nothing. They've got no space, they've done nothing. In fact, the only thing that actually goes well for the Gladiators is that Fate, he messes up his jump. Look at Fate. This is an Overwatch League Monkey jumping into a wall, or a pole or something. And see that? He fails his jump. He meant to jump over, and he messes it up. So now this is where spam is good. He gets Matrix, they nade him, they dynamite him, and Mirror dies. The ironic thing is the opportunity that Mayhem gave Gladiators, they go to take space, and then they just get immediately nuked. And then Fate overextends. So, like, this is just, in a nutshell, this is basically... Dive comp has a main tank, and they have a way to hold space. Hog Zarya has no way to take space. The only way they take space is by opening up really wide angles and spamming you out. That's the only way they have to take space. That's the only way. Or Sombra or Ashe looking for an opportunity. They don't have any way. How do you break this choke? How do you walk forward? As soon as you turn this corner, you're taking spam damage right in the face.